Welcome back to the News at 10. Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Ibrahim Adra. Ibrahim.
Hello, Ejema. Glad you could join us. Let's start from the National Assembly, where its leadership is asking the federal government to ensure equitable distribution of its interventions to cushion the effect of the coronavirus across the country. Senate President Ahmed Lawan made this request at a meeting between the leadership of the National Assembly and the Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed, CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, as well as heads of government agencies in the finance sector. The meeting is a follow-up to an earlier meeting last week as the federal government plans to adjust the 2020 budget to now include a 500 billion naira COVID-19 stimulus package.
In our stimulus package, we need to ensure provisions that will streamline with what is already in the budget 2020, so that we don't do duplications. In our last meeting, the Honourable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning indicated very clearly that the government, the executive, is proposing a 500 billion naira stimulus package. While this is a very good proposal, how we wish we could even have more than 500 billion. But my belief is that we need to ensure that we don't duplicate what is in the budget 2020. But we also must ensure there is equity, that there is fairness in the distribution or in the interventions. Every part of this country should have something to ameliorate the situation. Whether is coronavirus infected or not.
Meanwhile, following allegations of a scam in the National Social Investment Program supervised under the Office of the Vice President, the Special Advisor to the President on Social Investments, Uwais, is seeking to set the record straight. In a statement, Mrs. Uwais insists it is untrue that the National Social Investment Program has gulped over 2 trillion naira since 2016 when it was created. Rather, she says, quote, the actual funds released for the NSIPS between January 2016 and October 2019, when the NSIPS were handed over to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, amounted to 619.1 billion naira, constituting 36.4% of the total appropriation from the National Assembly. She gives a breakdown of the monies released for the NSIPS as 14.03% in 2016, 35% in 2017, 43.5% in 2018, and 57.8% of the 500 billion naira in 2016 and 400 billion naira appropriated for the subsequent years. The presidential advisor explains that as at September 2019, the funds had been expended on various initiatives, including the Job Creation Program, National Homegrown School Feeding Program, and the National Cash Transfer Program. She goes further to describe as unfortunate the allegations made at the National Assembly on April the 7th in respect of certain aspects of the NSIPS from inception in November 2015 to September 2019. According to Mrs. Uwais, the response has become necessary to, among other things, safeguarding the entitlements of poorest of Nigerian citizens whose benefits are likely to cease because they are not known or connected to National Assembly members or any other person of influence. The Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa has confirmed that the index case of the coronavirus pandemic in the state is in stable condition and receiving treatment in one of the designated isolation centers. He was speaking during a state broadcast at the government house in Asaba, where he asked residents to continue to adhere to precautionary measures, especially with the lockdown directive. We'll go right back to Lagos, where Ijoma is standing by.
Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. The number of COVID-19 infections in the United States is said to be nearing 400,000, and that's according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University. It also showed that more than 12,900 people have died after catching the virus. Meanwhile, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who's still in intensive care, is said to be improving and can sit up in bed. And so says the Finance Minister Rishi Sunak, as the hospital death toll from COVID-19 nears over 7,000. The numbers in Spain, however, continue to be worrying as the death toll rises past 14,000 within a single day. The death toll is up by 757 compared with 743 on Tuesday. And back here in Nigeria, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mile Kyari, says the current regulation and price regime in premium motor spirit is a reflection of market forces taking control. Speaking on our breakfast show Sunrise Daily today, Mr. Kyari explains that the decision is aimed at ensuring that people pay for what they consume. He says the subsidy scheme has created challenges for the corporation in remittance of proceeds.
With the situation that we have in ground, which the market forces have introduced, which is that today you can actually deliver this fuel to the market at less than 145 naira to the liter. And going with time, you will see gradual adjustment in this price. It can go down, it can go up. But when it does go up, it simply means that consumers will pay for what they consume. But ultimately, the ordinary man, the poor man in the country who is not shielded from this effect is the ultimate beneficiary. Because today, whatever name you call it, exploitation or any name that we put in it, it simply means that this country is subsidizing the elites, not the ordinary people. The ordinary people are the victims, and this has to stop. And this is a decision of all of us that the wise thing to do is to transfer these benefits to the ordinary people.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Kayode Okikiolu.
Thank you, Gemma, and you're welcome to Business News. The African Development Bank Group has announced the creation of the COVID-19 response facility to assist regional member countries in the fight against the pandemic. The facility is the latest measure taken by the Multilateral Development Finance Institution in response to the coronavirus. On March the 27th, the bank launched a record-breaking $3 billion social fund, which is the world's largest US dollar-denominated social bond ever on the international capital market in a bid to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. And just last week, the AFDB's board of directors approved a $2 million grant for the World Health Organization for its efforts on the continent. Let's head over to the equities market, which maintained a positive posture for a second day as continued interest in bank stocks and the shares of Lafarge Africa lifted the main index higher at the close of midweek trading session. Bisi Adebayo now tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Markets Report. The market's main index rose back to the 21,000 level today after sustaining the rebound recorded in Tuesday's session with a 0.71% increase. This is attributed to investors' continued interest in some fundamentally sound stocks across 4 out of the 5 key sectors of the NSE, particularly the bank equities. Now, the positive performance also reflected on the price table as Ecobank Transnational Incorporated and Ikeja Hotel led 23 other gainers up 10% each, while Union Diagnostics and Skyway Aviation Handling Company led 5 other losers down by 10% each. GT Bank recorded the highest volume of transaction on the trade list as more than 100 billion units of its shares were traded by investors, while a total of 346.4 million shares changed hands in over 4,600 deals. And that's it on the Stock Market Reports. I am Bisi Adebayo.
Crown Flour Mills Limited, an Olam Nigeria group company, has joined the efforts to support initiatives aimed at alleviating the disruption to the daily lives of citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. The company has donated a trailer load of Crown pasta to the Lagos State government to cushion the effect of the pandemic. The Vice President, Commercial Crown Flour Limited, says the distribution of relief items is happening simultaneously across various states.
Crown Flour Mills Limited, an Olam Group's company in Nigeria, one of the leading brands in agribusiness, is here to support the Lagos State with a donation of relief items to ease the pressure of the lockdown order to combat the COVID-19 pandemic.
What we are doing here today is particularly for Lagos State, because Lagos State is at the center of the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. And for us, it's more like reaching out to the less privileged in our society who are really affected by this lockdown. You know, people need food to actually keep complying with the directives of the Lagos State government.
The company says the initiative will also be repeated in some states affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
Petroleum is a leading agribusiness and food company in Nigeria, and for us, this COVID-19 is coming at a very what we can call uncertain times, you know. And for us, we felt it was important to partner and support the Lagos State government. So this is a COVID-19 relief or palliative for the people. And for this, we're very happy to be part of this, and we want and hope that this will blow away and blow away soon.
The Lagos State government appreciates the gesture, which they say will help cater for the less privileged.
With the contribution, the donation that we have had, Olam and so many other groups, I want to assure Lagosians that there's no need for them to panic. They should just be calm. They should stay at home. The food package will come to the vulnerables.
According to Olam Nigeria, aside from the donation of food relief items, the company is also investing in educational awareness on COVID-19 across communities where it has operations, and is donating medical supplies to frontline workers.
Still ahead on the news at 10, after 16 hours of negotiations, the EU talks about how to help countries badly affected by the coronavirus. And more from our London bureau in Around the World in 5. Do stay with us.